Our objective here is that we want to learn about the curve fitting. In fact, we want to know that what's curve fitting, what are the situations that we are going to have the curve fitting, or what are the main approach that we would use for the curve fitting. Two situations of the curve fitting that we have, I mean, in general case, not only for fitting the straight line, is that we have, let's say we have lots of data, the data given for discrete values along the continuum, and we need to estimate points between two discrete values. In that case, we are going to use the curve fitting. Or another example, another situation would be that when we want to do the simplification of the complicated function, we want to calculate the number of the discrete values using the complicated function. Then we try to fit the resulting curve using a simple function. So that's the second situation that we would use the curve fitting. Now, let's talk about the two main approaches that we have for the curve fitting. Essentially, these two main approaches, one of them is that we want to find a straight line that best describes the trend of the points. And the method that we use is the least square regression. So I'm gonna write down here. So we have two main approaches. The first one is that f of x, let's say I have these data points, right? And then the first approach is that I'm gonna just find a straight line that best describes these points. So let's say I will find a line like this. The method that we use is the least square regression method. That we are going to talk about that in the next video. So it's the least square regression. That's number one in our approach. The second one is that when we have the interpolation. So when the data are more precise and we want to fit the curve or a series of curves that pass through each point, in that case we would say we are using the interpolation approach. So the second one, let's say I have a similar situation here. So something similar to these points. As a second approach, we can have a linear interpolation. So like this, for example. So I'm going to call it linear interpolation. Or I can have I can use curve instead of these straight lines. I can use a curve and name that curvilinear interpolation. So I can have something like this. Let's say something similar. So I can have something like this and name it as a curvilinear interpolation. So these are the two cases, and again these are x, and here is f of x, right? So these are the two main approaches that we have in the curve fitting. That, as I said, we are going to learn about these ones in separate videos. The next thing that we want to talk about is that the situations that we are going to use these, in engineering, we are going to use it like in our calculations. So in engineering, we usually encounter curve fitting for the following situation. So I'll write down here, in engineering, So what's going to happen is that, just fix this. It's, for example, we have trend analysis. So when we have the trend analysis, that's one cases, for example. Let's say trend analysis. So we can use curve fitting for it, right? So use pattern of the data to make prediction. It can involve either extrapolation beyond the limits of the data or interpolation within the range of the data. That's one case. Another case would be like, for example, hypothesis testing. So for the hypothesis testing, we have an existing model that is compared with the measured data. If the model coefficients are unknowns, it may be necessary to determine values that best fit the observed data. Other things like, for example, we use it in other numerical techniques such as like integration and solution of differential equations, for example. Or in other cases, for example, we use it to simplify the complicated models. So these are about the situations that we have. We have two more videos about on this lecture. One is that we are going to talk about the least square regression in a general form. First in a simple form and then in general forms. And then there is another video on the interpolation of that one. Before looking at those two, there is another video on the simple statistics. If you know the simple statistics, like, for example, mean, standard variance, those things, so you can go to learn about the least square method. If not, or if you just need to recall it, it might not be a bad idea to look at this, learn about the simple statistics first, and then go to these two curve fitting approach. So in this video, we learned about the what is curve fittings and what are the different approaches that we are going to have for the curve fitting.